Greetings ladies and mental gents, and welcome to the latest video with two narrations for you to enjoy. In the first story, we see humanity's resolve after a devastating turn of events. In the second story, we have humanity saving themselves with a cunning plan of deception and unicorns. Yes, unicorns. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. The Best Revenge, written by Ender's Game 69. So, what does the toll look like? President Tandy asked from within the ruins of the Oval Office. He dusted off debris from his suit, and dirt poofed away to briefly hang in the sunbeams that shone through the many holes in the wall. Globally, or just the United States, sir? The general asked. Both. The answer was decisive and instant. The general cleared his throat and brushed aside the debris that had fallen from above to land on his papers. The United States suffered 200 million dead, with most of the casualties being in large cities, but large parts of the lighter populations were hit too. If you want the truth, Mr. President, the toll could be as high as 225 million. We just don't have the full picture yet. As far as the world, out of 7.8 billion people, the global population has been reduced to an estimated 1.2 billion. The general looked up at the president. The president seemed to age before his eyes, his color gray and his eyes clouding over for a moment. My God, but what about the interlopers? Gone. Some ships fled, the rest were killed. The aliens are gone. But I don't need to remind you. Starvation, malnutrition. The war against the aliens begins, but the war against our own world's attempt to finish us off. That is just beginning, the general answered. And the president looked down at one of the few Pentagon survivors. I know, General. I know. But this isn't over. All mankind is descended from the survivors in the struggle for life, and we will win the struggle too. Humanity will have to come together as never before. Thankfully, the interlopers didn't properly understand us, and a great deal here remains untouched outside of the populated zones and the seas. We'll start over. We'll use our own technology to help us. We'll reach for the stars again. And if not in my lifetime, or the lifetime of my sons and daughters, then in the lifetime of their children, we will go looking for the ones who did this to us. We will rebuild, and we will make them pay. End of story. Story number 2. Operation Tin Cup, written by Skull Bomb Raging. It was a couple decades ago now, but humanity was enslaved by an alien force called the Hegemony of Astrius. We were absolutely not ready for any such war, and we tried, but it didn't work out. There's a rumor going round that there's some humans on the outside biding their time and waiting for some sort of opening to counterattack. But those of us in the pit consider that hogwash. All right, you don't know about it. The pit is a big-ass space prison all of humanity is stuck in. The trouble, other than the most obvious trouble being in the massive prison, started after a particularly pessimistic inmate decided to invoke some good old comedy to pass the time. You see, Operation Tin Cup is a joke about an old practice of using a tin cup on one's jail bars to make noise, usually in order to escape the infinite boredom of being locked up in the slammer. How it was used tending to be something along the lines of, the next step in Operation Tin Cup is going to our cells and having a nourishing meal. Or, Operation Tin Cup demands that we go to the yard on time. Maybe it was the way that we said it. Whatever the reason, after the Operation Tin Cup started catching on, we started getting more inspections, stricter timetables, the works. The problem with that is, we just did what we always had done, and so we never got penalties except in rare cases that would be explained by other things. Now, we didn't understand what was happening at the time, so we just kept saying the joke. As time went by, the guards started to get more and more agitated. The higher-ranking officers started to yell more, and the warden added a constantly annoyed expression to his face. At this point, Operation Tin Cup had already died down as a joke, and we came up with something else to bide our time with. Then it happened. Random individuals started getting punished for the smallest infractions, and they started to interrogate us about where we'd been and who we'd worked for. Didn't make any sense until a particularly pessimistic inmate was taken in for questioning. Apparently, it clicked in his head when they got desperate and asked him, "Who is in charge of Operation Tin Cup?" He even tried to explain that it was a joke, but each time he did, they called him a liar and tortured him. So he made up a name of some faraway military general from the Secret Operations Branch, who he named Michael Jarhead. After he told us the story, we all decided to bring the joke back just to screw with our alien oppressors. A few of the more creative types even started passing out random codes for us to add to the regular conversation. We all silently decided that we would make something up each time they really pressed us for information, and even started to form a number of cannons for Operation Tin Can. According to the story we came up with, Michael Jarhead was the commander of the Battle of the Caribbean Sea. He saw that he couldn't win against the hegemony forces, so he came up with a plan called Operation Tin Cup. Yes, where there are some conflicting accounts, shall we say. Some swear that he only told his lover or lovers, the identity of which changed with every turning. Others claim he told all of his most trusted advisors, either of which spread the word about the plan to the rest of humanity. While we were doing this, we didn't even consider what happened next as possible. We just thought that it was hilarious to stress out the hegemony as much as we could. This is part where I finally show up in the story. I was in a particularly good mood after having been told about the newest adventure of Michael Jarhead, and how he secretly founded the Marine Corps. One of the hegemony guardsmen thought that it made me a spy, and so began an impromptu questioning. I still remember exactly what he said. "You, inmate 56, come here now." I tried to hide my smile and get serious, but I just kept thinking about the part of the story where Michael Jarhead tamed a bunch of unicorns and rode them into battle. "Yes, sir." "Did Michael Jarhead send you a new message?" I tried not to crank up any more than I already was. "No, sir, nothing new." "You did get a new message. What did it say?" the guard accused. I was in the middle of trying to figure out whether to pretend to be concerned or pretend to withhold information, when his rifle butt interrupted me. His partner moved in to control the crowd. "Now, inmate 56, not later." My smile was gone. I don't know anything, and I'm definitely not in the mood to talk, even if I did. The guard was enraged and started to beat me with the butt of his gun repeatedly. All I could think about was how I wanted him to stop. I grabbed the gun out of his hands. Everybody in the room stared. The guard and I stared at each other, and everyone else stared at the rifle that was now in my hands. I pulled the trigger, getting the guardsman instantly. The guard's partner tried to swing around to shoot me, but was ganged up on and beat to death in moments. It still hadn't sunk in at that moment, which is probably why I yelled the following at the top of my lungs: "Operation Tin Cup is a go!" I and other individuals started gunning down guardsmen, with a mob carrying any weapon they could find. A number of burly men used the previous and continuing guardsmen as shields as we popped over them to shoot. Eventually, we started to gain momentum, accruing lots of guns, lots of shields, and more inmates who joined the fight. Then the warden made an announcement over the intercoms. "Operation Tin Cup ends here, humans. Released the anti-ant personnel suppression drones." Those drones of theirs were the reason we lost the war. The stupid things could rip through anything that we had in moments, and they had enough of them to outnumber us 2-1. They dropped from the ceiling and spun up their guns. We all thought that it was the end. But nothing happened. When we opened our eyes, we realized that those guys from before were still holding the guardsmen, and concluded that the drones must have had an anti-friendly fire system. Someone in the crowd yelled a very well-timed reference, "Step forward, the winged beast!" We shot those stupid things to pieces. It felt so good. Out of what could only be described as the dumbest possible strategy, the warden turned off that anti-friendly fire mechanism, and the drones started to do their work for us. Of course, we had the out-of-control drones to worry about as well, but the fact that the hegemony guardsmen had to fight a lot of them and actually knew how to destroy them definitely helped a good deal. It was a struggle, and some moments got very touch and go, but we managed to make our way through to the warden's office, where we managed to get him to accept surrender. The Sparta was probably the funniest thing during the whole debacle.
Please, I have to know. How did Michael Jarhead message you while you were in prison? Our jamming systems are state-of-the-art.
We all collectively laughed at him, but I got the pleasure of answering. He didn't. We just knew what to do. About a week later, those humans that were secretly left behind that nobody believed existed brought a bunch of alien freedom fighters with them to try and liberate the prison. They had a good laugh when we told them what happened. As to the legacy of Mr. Michael Jarhead, we erected a statue of him riding a unicorn in Times Square. It was only fair after he defeated the hegemony with his brilliant plan, after all. End of story. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps: Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Fudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Athelia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.